Hello, Janesville. Thanks for tuning in to Park Place Views. I'm Maggie Hrdlicka, Management Information Specialist for the City of Janesville. If this is your first time tuning in, we're bringing you the Park Place Views news program to keep you informed about what's going on in Wisconsin's Park Place, the City of Janesville. This monthly program will feature certain programs, projects, and people from your city government. I'd like to thank JATV for partnering with us to make this program possible. During last month's program, I sat down with City Manager Mark Freitag. We got to know a little bit about Mark and also heard him speak about some of the big initiatives that are going on in the city currently. If you'd like to view that program, you can go to YouTube and search JATV Park Place Views. You can also find it on our website under the Publications and Videos webpage. But today, we're talking all things Janesville Fire Department. I'm here today with Fire Chief Jim Jensen. Chief Jensen has been with the Janesville Fire Department since 1988. He's moved up the ladder, pun intended, to become Fire Chief in 2011. So welcome to the program today, Chief. Thanks for being with us here.
Thanks, Maggie. Appreciate being here.
Great. And before we get started talking about city business, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, personally and professionally?
Sure. As you mentioned, I've been with the Janesville Department for about 26 years. I'm a lifelong area resident. My wife and I have been married for 32 years. We have a home on the west side. We have a couple of adult children. A daughter who's a physical therapist and living in Orlando currently, and we have a son who's a music teacher up in Johnson Creek. My hometown is Orfordville, so I grew up just west of here, and that's where I became interested in the fire service. I had a couple of friends from church who were after me for several years to get on the volunteer fire department there, and I kind of put it off for a while, and then finally gave in. I thought, well, this would be I guess my civic duty. I should probably do this. So I think I was about the age of 26 or 27, which is actually maybe a little bit old for someone starting out in the fire department, but got on the volunteer department, and after I was on for a short time, I thought, wow, this is fun. I enjoyed being able to help people. It was physically demanding, mentally challenging, and all the things that a young person enjoys. And I really started spending a lot of time at the fire station, and I really enjoyed it, and finally decided, hey, I should see if I could make a career of this. So I tested with a number of departments, and it was quite competitive. I think it took me about 5.5 years to get on the Janesville Fire Department and finally get through the process. But I was successful, and I've never regretted it. And I guess I should add, I think I took about a 28% cut in pay to leave the private sector to join the fire department here, but it was the best decision of my life. I really enjoy it, and it is a privilege to be able to help people and to now support the people who are out on the streets helping people, and so I do really enjoy it.
Great. Yeah, 26 years, that's a long time. How has it been leading the fire department since 2011? What are some of the greatest strengths of the Janesville Fire Department?
Well, it's been everything and more that I thought it would be. I knew we would have some challenges. These are challenging times. The economy has been difficult, and I knew we were going to go through a turnover in personnel, and we had some equipment and facilities challenges. So I knew there were a lot of things ahead, and so we have had those challenges. I came in with a number of goals. Some of those due to the economy and other factors, we've had to delay a little bit, but we are making progress. And so I I'm happy about where we are as a department, and what we've been able to accomplish. But I don't accomplish anything on my own, and our greatest strength is our people. We have great people. They're very talented and very dedicated to helping others, and they, like me, have dedicated their lives to helping people, and that's what makes this a great department. And I'm just proud to be able to work with and support those people.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit more about the structure of the organization within the fire department?
Sure. We have a total of 94 personnel on our fire department, and 87 of those people are on what we call shifts. They work a 24-hour schedule, and those are the people that are out responding to calls and doing the actual emergency response work. Those 87 people are divided up into 3 different work groups, and we call them shifts. Although that's a little confusing when we say we have 3 shifts. The public usually thinks about first, second, and third shift.
Sure.
Our people work a 24-hour day. They come in at 7 in the morning and go home at 7 the next morning, which is unique. And so those 87 people divided into those 3 shifts. So there's 29 per shift, and we have a 24-person minimum per day. So each day we have 24 firefighters and paramedics out there, spread out among 5 different stations in the city of Janesville, and they're divided into various crews and assigned to different vehicles and different tasks, and so that's in a nutshell kind of how we're organized.
Okay. And I know I've heard that your firefighters and paramedics are one and the same. They're cross-trained. What is the reason for that?
Right. It's mainly efficiency, and over the years we have developed this this model, and we have out of those 87 people that are on shift, 55 of those, over half, are paramedics. Everyone on our department is at least at the emergency medical technician level, and 55 are at the higher paramedic level. All of those people are firefighters, so they're all certified, trained firefighters. So they're cross-trained, and it's a very efficient model. So we have paramedics out there on the fire trucks, and we have firefighters on the ambulances. And so you can see on any given day, you can see an engine and an ambulance show up at a call, and you might have 5 firefighters or you might have 5 paramedics, depending on the need and the type of call. So it is a highly efficient system that we have refined over the years, and we get the most for our money that way in personnel costs.
Okay. That makes sense, yeah. I know, Chief, that there was recently a pinning ceremony for, I think, 5 new recruits. And then at that ceremony, you also promoted some of the existing personnel to new positions within the department. Can you just highlight some of the big staff changes that you've had recently?
Sure, and we have had many. And as I said earlier, I anticipated some of those, but I don't know if we could really understand the magnitude of that. We've had in the last 4 years, nearly 1/3 of our department has left either through retirements or resignations.
Wow.
21 retirements, and 5 people have left primarily to go to other fire departments. But that's a high number of people, and out of that number, 15 of those were officers, and we have 22 officers on the department. So about 1/3 of our department has turned over in 4 years, and about 70% of our officers. So it's a lot of training and experience that has left that we need to replace, and also a lot of officers that we need to prepare and move up into roles of supervision and authority.
Okay, and I know that you mentioned earlier that your department runs on that 24-hour shift schedules. And you said that is kind of a unique system. Can you tell me why the 24-hour shift schedule is more efficient than your typical 40-hour per week work week?
Sure, great question. And most fire departments, most full-time fire departments operate on a 24-hour schedule.
Oh,
and
okay.
some of it started by tradition and need. It made sense to have the firefighters at the firehouse. They were probably close to the horses and the equipment that needed tending, and if there was an occasional fire call, then they could go out on the call. And over the years, that schedule has continued, and while it may seem somewhat antiquated, and sometimes it's a difficult schedule, 24 hours is a long time, but it is the most efficient schedule from a cost standpoint. And the reason for that is we are obviously a 24/7 operation.
Sure.
We never close, and so we have to cover 168 hours each week. And so we do that with those 3 work groups or shifts that I talked about, working a 24-hour day. So each shift is required to work 56 hours every week. So in order to change the schedule to, say, a 40-hour schedule, we would have to cover that 168 hours, and so it would take about 4.2 shifts or work groups in order to cover that. And if you figure that out based on our minimum staffing and the cost of a firefighter's wages and benefits, we would need about 29 additional firefighter paramedics at a cost of about $1.9 million every year. Oh. Now, one of the advantages to that schedule is that Fair Labor Standards Act allows an exemption for firefighters that work that 24-hour schedule, because in theory there is some rest time in the 24 hours. And so they allow an overtime exemption for the majority of those extra hours that firefighters work. And that's what makes it so cost effective. So even though I'd probably prefer to have people on a more normal schedule, it may be somewhat more efficient from a labor standpoint or a safety standpoint. It would be very difficult for the city to make that change at any time in the near future because of the cost. That $1.9 million is a recurring cost, so that would be every year we would have that additional cost in our budget.
Yeah, that's big. Hey, I like it. Heck, sometimes I would like my husband to work a 24-hour shift instead of his normal 8. So just when there's an EMS call, or a fire call, what does the response unit look like?
On an EMS call, it depends a lot on the information that the dispatcher receives and gives us.
Okay.
There are routine ambulance calls that we will just send an ambulance and 2 paramedics, and that's actually about half of the time or more. If the call comes in and it's a more critical call and it sounds like an advanced life support call or a cardiac emergency, something more significant, we need to send additional help, and that's why a lot of times you'll see an engine respond. The other thing that happens is our ambulances are busy, and so if an ambulance that's in the normal response area for the address as it comes in, If they're out on another call, we may send an engine as a first responder, and then an engine or an ambulance from another station will come in second to back them up. The system is very effective. The engines carry most of the advanced life support equipment. They can do many of the same things that the ambulance paramedics can, and so they work very well together. It is a great model, highly efficient. We are essentially an extension of the emergency room at the hospital. We are in close contact with the hospital, with the physicians and the nurses. We can send information from our cardiac monitors directly to the hospital using telemetry, and so it is very efficient. If you see what goes on in a hospital emergency room on a critical patient and see all the people scurrying around, the same type of thing goes on when we have a medical emergency. We need a lot of people there, a lot of hands, a lot of trained medical professionals, and that's why we send sometimes more equipment than people would feel is logical.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. So I know that last year your department's protocol for completing inspections of commercial properties decreased from 2 inspections required per year to just 1 now required. What was the reason for that change?
It was primarily staffing, and we operate with very minimal staffing, especially in our Fire Prevention Bureau, and we are required by the state. Currently, it's the Department of Safety and Professional Services to inspect public buildings, commercial buildings, apartments with more than 3 units, and any business, anywhere where there may be public access. And so we were formerly required to do 2 inspections, and the state came along with a change in that if we pass an ordinance, we could go to 1 inspection per year. And we contemplated that and decided to make the change. But when we did that, we also decided that we would, at the urging of the state, we would be a little bit more strict on compliance. When we found violations, we would make sure we followed up and got compliance from the business owner or the property owner. And so we feel that type of system rewards people who are taking care of business. If they don't have violations, we don't have to bother them twice a year. It saves us in staff time, and we get better compliance. So we think it's a good system.
Have you seen the number of violations change at all since you went to this one inspection a year?
Yes, we have. And we've been tracking that because our concern was that, boy, if we're only out there once a year instead of twice, we could see some problems, and maybe we'll start seeing, things happening that would cause us to go back to 2. But actually, we're monitoring that, and we're seeing the number of violations go down. In 2011, we had 8,060 violations out there in the community. And when we looked at this recently at the end of June, we had 5,245. So we are seeing that number come down, and I think that a lot of that is due to better compliance, and that's in the end what we want. We want to get the violations cleaned up and taken care of. So far it's working.
Great. Well, just changing directions a little bit, I'd like to talk to you about the Central Fire Station Replacement Project. As you're well aware, that has been a hot topic in the community for the last several months. So first, can you just tell me what is the current status of that project?
Sure. The Currently, there are property acquisitions taking place. We've been directed by the city council to move forward with the project, and so we are doing that. Property acquisitions are going well. We currently have, I believe we're up to today 9 signed offers out of 12. So we still have 3 that we're working on, and the reports that I'm hearing, property owners are very satisfied with how they have been treated and how this has been handled, and so we're pleased with that. We've had a company doing soil borings on the site to determine the soil types and for the architect to do their work. And there also have been surveys going on. So the site has been surveyed. That information has gone back to the architect. They will prepare a schematic design and a site layout. And we have also put together a station committee that consists of a couple of council members, some neighbors who will live adjacent to the new station, and a member of the Janesville Historic Commission, and some other city staff members. And we've had one meeting of that committee. The committee will get together again in August, on August 13th at 11 o'clock. And those meetings are open to the public. That will be in room 416 at the municipal building. And then we'll have another community engagement forum that will be coming up later in the summer, probably sometime in September, we're thinking. So things are moving forward. We're happy about where we're at. There's a lot of work to do still. Sure. We've been directed by the council to try and bring the project cost down, which we have been working on, looking at the design to see, what are our priorities, where could we make reductions if we needed to, and so we think we'll have some ideas and some good options for the committee to look at in August.
Great. So not to take us back in history, but can you just tell the viewers at home, why does the station need to be completely replaced rather than just renovated?
Sure. The station was built in 1957, so it's 57 years old, and it's amazing to go back and look at the pictures and the equipment that was in that station in 1957, because I can tell you that everything has changed about our business. In 1957, we acquired our first ambulance, so we were only a fire department. All of the other specialty services, the specialty teams that we're providing today didn't exist back then. There was no hazardous materials team, technical rescue team, or dive team, and so there have been so many changes in the fire service. So that building that is there today does not meet our needs. It is too small. It is inefficient. Has all the inefficiencies of a building of that vintage that's nearing 60 years old. It requires us to squeeze in vehicles as tightly as we can pack them in there. And obviously we don't have room for all our vehicles. We have vehicles that we don't have space for. But then when we get a call and we need a vehicle that's parked in the back of the station, or we have to move 1 or 2 vehicles, it causes delays. It's a safety issue, and so it's very inefficient. The building itself was not designed for the operations that we currently have. There is no meeting space. There is no capabilities of separating gender in the station. So it is not gender friendly. We didn't have women in the fire service in 1957. We have been discussing the replacement of this station since at least 1994. I have plans from 94 to replace it. And because of that, and because of being told that we're going to have a new station, we have made decisions about maintenance based on that. So a lot of maintenance has not been done on that building, and it unfortunately is in very tough shape. We've had engineers tell us that it is not a candidate for refurbishing or renovation. So it's time to replace it.
Okay. So the council decided to go with the replacement option, and then you had to pick the site. And I've heard a lot of people saying, why can't it go here or there in town? So why was the current site selected? Why is that the optimal location?
It's really about response times, and the other sites don't meet the needs that we have. And we have looked at other sites over the years, and usually we've looked at those because they may have been available or they may have been less expensive. But when we really look at response times, which everything in our business revolves around response times. And it is just so important to have that station properly located, the central station. And so that's why the location that we're looking at is the best. It's also the central station requires a large area, about 2.6 acres. And many of the other sites that we've looked at just simply wouldn't accommodate our needs.
Okay. And now I know I've heard you say before that the central station doesn't just serve the central city. What do you mean by that?
Well, we have a lot of specialized equipment in the central station. There are a number of pieces of equipment that we only have one of. So, for instance, next week we will receive our new aerial ladder that's been on order for almost a year now, and that will be the only piece of equipment we have like that. That will respond to all fire calls in the city. So obviously we need that in the best location possible. We can't put that out on the edge of town somewhere in an open space because if it's on the wrong side of town, that could potentially be a 20-minute response time to the other end of town. So we want to locate that in the best position possible. And it's the same with much of our other equipment, whether it's the rescue truck or the tender or a number of other things. The other thing with being in the central location, that station backs up the other stations. If there is an ambulance out on the east side, out of Station 4, and we get another ambulance call in that location, Station 1, the central station ambulance, might be the next ambulance to respond out there. So they end up, Station 1 runs on more calls than any of the other stations. They don't just serve the downtown area, they really serve the entire city.
Okay. Now, something I've seen on some of the site plans is that you guys are going to have a training room in the station. Why is a training room necessary? Why can't you guys go train somewhere else, and what really is the room going to be used for?
Sure. The training is fundamental to everything we do. We have many, many hours of training each year, and much of it is required training. And we have, again, refined this system over the years, and we have found the most cost-effective way to do training, and that's with on-duty people. And there is a compromise with that. We put people on training status during their day, and that takes them out of the response complement. But to train off duty would be very, very expensive, and so we do it on duty, and we try to do it in a central location. If possible, we try to do it in each station, so we don't have to take the units out of their response area. Sometimes that simply isn't possible, and I'll use the example of EMT training. Sometimes there's practical training that's done, and we bring in instructors, and it's done at Fire Station 1. Right now we do it in the kitchen area. It's the only place we have. And we may bring all the stations up there, and a lot of times we'll even have personnel from other departments there at Station 1 taking part in that training. So that training room in the new station will get used a lot, and it's not just a training room. It's a multi-purpose room. It can be used for meetings, can be used for public meetings and other types of things too. But it will be a room that's used a lot, and for us to go off-site somewhere else would be very, very difficult, and still be able to train on duty and have that low cost per training hour that we enjoy today.
Okay. So now there's a $9 million price tag on the project currently, and I know that you mentioned the committee will be meeting to try to get that project cost down as much as possible. But at the $9 million price tag, what is this station going to cost to the average taxpayer?
At the $9 million mark, which is what we've been directed to do, the estimated cost is $14 to $26 per year for the average homeowner in Janesville. And the range is because we don't know exactly how it will be financed, what the period will be when we borrow the money, because the money is typically borrowed at different times. The council recently approved $3 million for the new station, so we don't borrow it all at one time. So there is a range, but $14 to $26 is currently what the estimate is.
Okay. So now something that I've heard recently, there's been talk about 2 new stations being built in addition to replacing the central station. Can you speak to that topic at all?
Sure. The city of Janesville is quite large geographically, 34 square miles. We're larger than a lot of our peer cities that have similar populations. So Janesville has grown and spread out, and unfortunately we haven't done a real good job of planning for fire stations. So we do need more stations. Each station in Janesville covers an average of almost 7 square miles per station, which again is much higher than our peer cities. To be average with our peers, we would need about 7 stations, and we do have a couple of areas in the city that could use fire stations. So we are looking at purchasing land for those future stations. We have no immediate plans to build those stations, but we think it would make sense to purchase the land if we believe there's a need, and there probably will be in the future. Why not purchase the land now when it's readily available, rather than wait till the area develops and then go in and say, we have to displace someone because we need a fire station, which is exactly what's happening now with Station 1. So we're trying to be proactive in purchasing the land, even though we probably can't build those stations in the near future.
Okay, but you did say that there's no immediate plans to build, and so if we were to start purchasing land, when would that happen?
We would like to purchase land for the what we're calling Station 6, which would be the north station between Janesville and Milton. on the outskirts of Janesville. We'd like to purchase that land in 2015. And that's an area where the growth has slowed in the last couple years, but we believe it will take off again. And so now is probably a good time to try and purchase that land before it all develops.
Yeah, starts becoming more costly too. Okay, great. Well, viewers at home, if you'd like any more information about the Central Fire Station Replacement Project, you can find a lot of answers to frequently asked questions on our website by going to www.ci.janesville.wi.us/Central Fire Station. Thanks for talking about that, Chief. Just a few last questions for you before we wrap up. So we talked earlier that the fire department inspects commercial properties on a routine basis for any fire code violations, but as we know, fires frequently occur in residential properties as well. So I'm just wondering, what are some of the most common but preventable causes of home fires that your department sees?
Probably the most common thing that we're seeing today, and I believe this is pretty consistent across the country, is cooking fires. A lot of times unattended cooking fires. People will leave a pot of grease or oil on the stove, or forget about an item they're cooking, or fall asleep, and so we see a high incidence of cooking fires. It's probably the most common. We see a number of electrical fires. Electricity is a common ignition source, and whether it's improper wiring or overloaded electrical wiring, sometimes improper use of extension cords can cause overheating and fires. So those are a couple common causes. Still see children causing fires, children playing with lighters and matches. Unfortunately, that one is fairly easy to prevent, but we still see them just about every year. And then, of course, this time of year, we see a number of grill incidents with grills and outdoor cooking as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask too, now that this program will be airing in August, do you have any tips for people for keeping fire safe during these warm and really hot summer months?
Sure. One of the things we probably should mention for the summer is our use of portable campfire kettles, and we get a lot of questions, and we respond to a lot of calls on these, and we have had some incidents where they have caused fires, and so I think it's important to understand the rules for using portable campfire kettles, and I'm talking about wood burning campfire kettles, and there are many of those, and lots of different sizes and shapes out there, but they need to be used with the lid or the cover in place. They shouldn't be used without a cover. The cover or the lid will help to stop the sparks from escaping and potentially prevent a fire. The campfire kettles must be a minimum of 30 feet from any wooden structure, including a wooden fence. And so a lot of backyards don't have that separation distance. And if we get called out, our crews will measure. They have a 30-foot rope essentially on the fire truck that they'll measure and see if there's enough distance for that. And that's purely for safety reasons. And then the wind needs to be under 20 miles per hour to use one of those, because wind is definitely a factor in carrying sparks and embers that can ignite a structure. No yard waste or trash should be burned in the kettles. And then lastly, I just want to ask people that if they're using a campfire kettle, to please be courteous and and think of your neighbors, because there are many, many people out there that are very sensitive to smoke, and they have health issues, asthma, and various other types of issues. And so we get called on a lot, and unfortunately become, we get in the middle of neighborhood disputes. And so if people could just be courteous, that would go a long way in reducing the number of complaints that we get on campfire kettles.
Okay. Well, I think we're just about out of time. Do you have any last burning thoughts that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I don't know if I have any burning thoughts, but it's an honor to serve the citizens of Janesville, and being able to help people on what's a lot of times the worst day of their lives is a real privilege, and it's very fulfilling. And we talked about the fire station today, and I'd like the community to know that this isn't the fire chief's fire station, and it's not the firefighters' fire station. It's the community's, and that building will help us to serve the community for many years to come. We have a great group of people, and they have dedicated their lives to serving the community, and we really believe this facility will help us to do that more effectively. So thank you again for having me today.
No problem, and thank you for joining us. I know that I've learned a lot about the fire department's operations, and I hope that our viewers at home have as well. So thanks, Chief Jensen. And in addition to tuning into this monthly program to learn more about the City of Janesville, there are several other ways that you can stay connected with us on a more regular basis. You can like us on Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter. You can sign up to receive emergency alerts from the Janesville Police Department by going to nixle.com. That's NIXLE.com. And finally, you can subscribe to receive emails with our press releases and also notifications about road closures, program cancellations, snow emergencies, and much more. And you can do that again at our website, www.ci.janesville.wi.us/email lists. So again, thank you so much for tuning into Park Place Views today. I'm Maggie Hrdlicka, Management Information Specialist for the City of Janesville. Thanks for watching.